All right, Victorum Gaming fans and Hail Caesar fans, we are back with another video here covering the different factions of the game. So we've moved on from the Hoplites and Greeks for the moment and kind of have a little bit of an oddball one here, but this is called the Pauravan and Mauryan Indians, and basically covers 5th through 3rd centuries BC. So getting into that towards the end there with Alexander and his forays into the Far East here. But an interesting list, and not one that I can say that I've actually ever seen fielded or collected. Not even sure really who makes models that would work for this. But if you know anybody, definitely put it in the comments. Definitely be interested to learn about that. But nonetheless, an interesting list here. It's almost Persian-like as far as its diversity of things that it will let you field, and there's a couple surprises in here as well, so that you might again not immediately think of if you think of Indian armies from this classical period here. So some things to look at. So a lot of this is Alexander related, but King Poros, the Battle of Hydaspes, other things like Asoka the Great, the Seleucid Marian War, and Arians, Indica, and just many other things. But requirements on this army is a little bit interesting here. So like I said, you can already see some of the diversity here. So infantry, it is going to be a mainly infantry-based list, 50% or more. So again, it could be 100% infantry. And again, we're not counting skirmishers. We do have the warrior caste has to be at least half of the infantry though. And again, non-skirmishers. So, and as it says here, units in the army must be warrior caste troops of one kind or another. And then interestingly, cavalry could also be up to 25%. And then up to 25% could be chariots, and then it doesn't take a math wizard to see here that we're already over 100%, because elephants could also be up to 20%. So regardless, there's going to be some give and take between those three categories there, because you can't have all three of those maxed out and then still meet the legal infantry requirements. So some interesting choices that actually have to be made there. And on top of that, artillery is also a factor in this list, which we haven't seen much of, but up to one unit of each type can be included, and no more than 1 in 10 of the number of units in the army total. So some interesting things there. And then on the division and skirmisher side, we actually have some additions from the typical restrictions there too. So let's go over it. Divisions must contain at least 4 units, excluding skirmishers, unless consisting of mercenaries, in which case they can be smaller, as noted below. Chariots, cavalry, and elephants cannot be mixed in the same division. Mercenaries must form a single division of 1 or more units, unless there are more than 5 units in total, excluding skirmishers, in which case they become organized into 2 separate divisions for ease of command. All divisions must have a commander. So that's a mouthful there. So definitely you're going to be doing some calculations if you want to field this army, just to see if you made all the requirements. Unless, of course, you're just doing infantry, where it gets a little bit easier and nothing but infantry. But if you want to start bringing in the cavalry, chariots, and elephants, this is going to be definitely some not just number crunching, but just making sure you've obeyed all the requirements. And then the skirmishers, as we said, per division, so 50% of infantry or 1 per elephant. So again, another interesting little twist here. Divisions may contain up to half as many skirmishers as they contain non-skirmisher infantry. Elephants can have skirmishers as subunits, as noted, which is a really interesting little feature there. So again, if you're looking for something different off the beaten path, that would be probably a hell of a lot of fun to collect, but also game with. Definitely check this army out. There's some really interesting choices to be made here. So we start off, and again, you might not even think, if you think Indian armies, that heavy infantry would come to mind, but hey, that's where we're starting out. So we have heavy infantry guards armed with spears and javelins. You only get 1 unit, and they start off with that basically typical heavy infantry stat line, 7s with a 4-up morale, and they're actually tough fighters. And then you could give them double-handed swords. And again, only the 1 unit, which takes or downgrades the short range ability a little bit, but on the other hand, hey, it bumps up clash by 1, and that's all for 1 extra point for that 1 unit. So interesting choice, different ways to go with that. Both are viable, and they still keep tough fighters, which is good too. So is that 1 die really worth it for the 1 point? You'll have to get some games in and decide that. Now, obviously, they have double-handed weapons as well. Moving on, we have warrior caste medium infantry with mixed ranks of spears, javelins, and bows. So kind of a little Swiss Army unit here. So medium infantry stat line, basically, but also the sort of maxed out long and short range ability there. Really good stuff. 5-up save and 26 points per unit. And really you can't ask for much more. The unit can basically do everything. It's gonna not quite hang with the heavy infantry, but again, it's got the best of the range stats, so it can definitely punish you before you get there too, especially in quantity. So there's no other restriction there aside from the ones above. Then we have warrior cast medium infantry with bows, so we trade off a little bit of combat ability and keep the ranged ability for just a minor discount. So probably would have been nicer to maybe see it like even one more point discounted here, just to really make that more clear on the choices there. So again, we're going down to 5s on combat, but we're keeping the ranged ability. So it's a toss up there, I guess. If you're short a couple points, you might want to go that route. And these are all normal size units too. Then we have guildsmen levy medium infantry with bows, and basically here we get a better discount down to 21, but same stat lines in their levies. So then mercenary medium infantry with spears and javelins, we bump back up into the 6s, and these guys are stubborn, which is kind of cool. So basically mercenaries on demand here with a special rule, and a good special rule. And similarly, mercenary infantry with bows, and kind of repeating the pattern that we got from the cast infantry above. These guys are actually marksmen though, so you're kind of getting like these mercenaries are almost like elite medium infantry, and again in quantity here, which is great. And it's nice to see that they're not like downgraded into small units. And then we got to go on to the next page here, and there's a whole ton more. We jump into the skirmisher section here. So the usual stuff here, these are all small units. So we got javelins as small units. We can bump out to slings instead, or bows, and the usual stat lines there. And again, the typical point values and cheap upgrades as well, just 1 point whichever way you go. And again, another great way to just pad out the ranged ability of this list. Again, very, very strong short range, and certainly solid, if not pretty good, in the long range department too. Then we actually have some solid cavalry too. So it's medium cavalry with spears and javelins. And again, this isn't going to be like cataphract territory here, but a 7 on the clash is respectable. Drops down to a 5, which again is going to be a little bit rough down the road for staying in fights, especially with that 5-up morale. But again, that shock value and being able to get mobility here, and that's all for 26 points a unit. Then we jump down into light cavalry with javelins as small units. So again, more multiple smaller harassing units with a corresponding drop off in stats here, a 5 and a 3 for the fighting, and then just a 2 at that short range. And they still actually come in with a 6-up morale save as opposed to not having one at all. So and only for 17 points a unit there, so not bad at all. We have 2 flavors of chariots, basically actually 3 flavors, light, heavy, and then the ox ones. But light chariots with spear, javelin, crew, and we can swap that out for bow crews. Basically the bow just brings in that long range, and they start off at 27 points a unit, 3 more points for the bows. Honestly, not a bad deal. These light chariots still packing 6s on the combat value there, and again pretty nasty, but also a 4-up on the morale save, so you basically have like heavy infantry morale there. The heavy chariots though are where it's at in many ways. Spear, javelin, crews, again we can go with bow, arm, crew. And then, interestingly here, extra to make any chariot unit elite regardless of armament. So, if you've got the points, you can have a whole hell of a lot of elite chariots up to that restriction value from the list requirements above. But we start at 30 points, 3 points for the bow upgrade, and then it's 3 points to go elite as well. So you can just have the javelin version with elite, so at 33 points, or if you want to go all in, unit that can basically do everything, 36 points for elite bow chariots. And again, that stat line's pretty beefy there, 9 on the clash value, so you're definitely your opponent's definitely going to feel that impact, assuming the dice are with you. But performance does drop off there, interesting compared to the light chariots where they stay at sustain of 6. Here the fighting ability drops off down into the 5, so you're definitely going to want to make sure you maximize that damage in that first round of fighting. So then we go on, ox-drawn heavy chariot, anti-elephant wagon with bow arm crews. That's a mouthful right there. So not that great on the close combat ability. Again, excellent range, but they have some special notes there, which we saw above, and 29 points a unit for that. Then we have elephants. So elephant with crew armed with spears, javelins, and bows. Again, don't let the stats fool you here. The elephant special rules certainly make them pretty scary. And then we go on. We have a little bit more too. Subunit of skirmishers as small units, basically one per elephant. So a little bit of protection for the elephants, not elements, but again, nothing all that great on the stats there. But again, it's the fact that the elephant has a little bit of a bubble wrap essentially in support there. Those are coming in 11 points a unit. And then we got to that artillery as well. So light artillery and then the medium, just one unit of each basically. Again, they're not there to be in close combat. If that's happened, you can basically kiss them goodbye. But again, that ranged ability is really what you're getting them for. And 15 and 20 points for those units. And then all the way across, leadership 8, no access to 9 here, but again, 8 is great, as we say. So again, overall, just a really crazy, diverse list with all those crazy requirements that we saw at the beginning, and really just allows you to field all kinds of different things. Again, it's mainly going to still be an infantry-based list, but the fact that you could throw just very solid infantry across the board, and again, backed up with skirmishers if you want to just go all infantry. You can bring in some artillery just to sprinkle that in if you wanted to go that. If you wanted to diversify a little bit, you could go like 70-ish% infantry. Max out your cavalry, for example. Throw that at the opponent. Excuse me. If you wanted to dish the cavalry, bring in the chariots instead. Just lots of nasty possibilities here. Or if you wanted to not bring any of those, but infantry backed up with some elephants and maybe even some artillery. So there's just so many different ways and combinations, permutations that you could really throw at the opponent here. So again, that's why this also is just such a fun thing to collect, potentially just because of all these different things that you could really build up, and depending on the size of games you like to play, but just multiple divisions of just all these different things, and really the opponent could almost never really face the same thing twice. So again, it's really up to you and your creativity to really give it a go here. So overall, again, this that Indian list, very good stuff here. Hope you guys enjoyed our little breakdown of it. And if you could, drop us a like. Check out our other reviews for the factions that we've been doing for Hail Caesar. Hope you enjoy those. And if you could, hit us up with a subscribe if you haven't already. And then stay tuned for the next one.